What's going on with the Jags?
Let's see. 2-14, the number 2 overall draft pick. My guess is they draft a defensive lineman because I do not see a quarterback worth drafting at number 2.
What I don't understand is why didn't they kept Malarkey as head coach?
Because he's not a very good head coach.
He was great with the Falcons.
He was awful with Baltimore. He was awful with the Jaguars. When we got rid of when I say we, I mean when the Jaguars got rid of their general manager, their GM.
Gene Smith?
Yeah. When Gene Smith went, that everybody knew at that point Malarkey was gone. Mm-hmm. And I'm not impressed with Malarkey's not that good of a coach.
He did turn the Falcons from the 29th in the league to 10th in the league.
Yeah. And back then, teams had more patience. And what we've seen from Malarkey in recent history is his tenure with Buffalo. His tenure with Buffalo, mm-hmm. and his tenure with the Jaguars, which amounted to a whole lot of losses and not very many wins. So, his only year now with the Jaguars will be remembered as 2-14. I would be very surprised if he got a head coaching job anywhere else. I don't think he's cut out to be head coach. I think he's a better coordinator mm-hmm. than a head coach. But there are a lot of guys like that. I don't think that Mike Martz is a very good head coach. I think he's a great coordinator under the right leadership. He can run an offense, but he needs somebody who reins him in a little bit. And when he was with the Rams, Dick Vermeil reined him in a little bit. And that's what made that team successful. It was Vermeil's overall leadership, and Mike Martz suddenly became this golden boy that everybody wanted. And so Dick Vermeil retired, spur of the moment, which he should have never done. Mm-hmm. And that put Mike Martz into a head coaching position. He ended up going to a Super Bowl. And that's nothing to sneeze at, but that team was a great team. That Rams team was a great team. Mm-hmm. But in the end, Mike Martz lost games because he hated to run the ball, and you have to run the ball from time to time. You have to establish some kind of running game. And when you had someone as good as Marshall Faulk, you have to do that. You have to find ways to incorporate him in, not just in the passing game, but actually running the ball.
What do you think of the new head coach, Gus Bradley?
I don't know. I mean, there's nothing to really judge.
Well, with the Seahawks, he turned them from the 27th in the league to the 9th in the league. Mm-hmm. So,
as a coordinator, again, we don't know. You never know if a coordinator is going to be a good head coach until he gets the chance to be a head coach. So I'm glad he's getting a chance.
But he's got to, I believe,
we don't
more than just one season.
Yeah, he's got to have more than one season. But, we're not going to know. It's going to be a while before we know if this guy is really head coach material. Mm-hmm. Obviously something happened in the interview, maybe personal history with the GM. They think he's the guy. Okay. Me personally, being on the outside, not being there for the interviews, I probably would have gone with somebody like Lovie Smith, a guy that I know can coach in this league, a guy who went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman of all people. So I know he gets good things out of his players. He got fired. Well, he left Chicago, and Chicago, say what you want about Chicago, that they underachieved, that they didn't do as well, they missed the playoffs. They were 10-6 and missed the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's not like they were losing and losing and losing. I think he got the best you could get out of those teams.
Well, I guess Caldwell, the new GM for the Jags, we'll see how he turns our first season.
I don't expect much.
Not at all.
Not this early. I mean, we're in a rebuilding mode. We don't have tons of talent to work with. You put a new defensive lineman on that that defensive line, things will improve. But players like that take time to develop. So I don't expect him to be, the leading pass rusher in the game all of a sudden just because he came into the NFL in first season. Whoever it is they pick, because I don't have any names of who they're going to pick yet. It's probably a couple of names. There's probably a lot of analysis that's yet to happen. I don't think they know who they're going to pick yet. I think that's going to be months down the line. My sense is it'll be a defensive lineman, because that's a need position, and there are some good defensive linemen coming out of college.
So not much hope for the Jags.
I would expect to see a little bit of improvement, but maybe 2 or 3 games. And actually, I think if they win 3 games next year and they go back and have another high draft pick, that's not the worst thing in the world. 2 years in a row of having a very high draft pick. If you use those draft picks right, you can come back and really start to build. You look at the Cowboys back in the 90s. They drafted a quarterback. They went 1-15. The next season, well, obviously they got another pick then. So the next season, what do? They come back, and whether they 8-8, 9-7, and then after that they're playoffs, and then they're Super Bowl, and Aikman was like the backbone. People forget that he went 1-15 his first year. People want instant results now because guys like Luck come out, and you know what? Luck was fortunate enough to end up on a team like Indianapolis that still had pieces in place to make him somewhat successful. You don't always get that. You don't always get that opportunity. Tom Brady was fortunate enough to go in the 6th round because people didn't realize how good he was coming out of college. But he also ended up on a very good team. The Patriots didn't come out of nowhere. They were a good team before he took over as quarterback.
Yeah, the Patriots had good chemistry. I don't want them winning the Super Bowl. No offense to New England. I'm sorry.
I would like to see Brady win one more before he goes, and this is probably his last real legitimate shot at winning another Super Bowl. He was a good story. I think he's still a good story. The guy that everybody overlooked. I mean, the Jaguars could have had, every other team in the league could have had him. He was drafted in the 6th round. So, we love stories like that. But then once these people have success, we tend to turn our back and forget about them. You look at Mike Piazza, Dodgers catcher, drafted in the 63rd round of their draft. He was drafted as a first baseman. He had to be converted to catcher. It was a great story. He came up into the major leagues. He was only drafted because Tommy Lasorda was his father, godfather or something. So that's the only reason he was drafted at all. And he turns out to be a Hall of Fame caliber catcher. He missed the Hall of Fame this year. He should get in. People hold his defense against him because he wasn't the greatest defensive catcher. He wasn't a bad backstop, though. I mean, he kept the ball in front of him. He just wasn't good at throwing out runners. I think that's the knock on Piazza. But he is, without a doubt, the greatest offensive catcher of all time. He has the bad luck of having been a strong, powerful guy in the steroid era. But in every steroid investigation, his name has never come up. But he ends up with this guilt by association thing. Same with Craig Biggio. For some reason, he just gets lumped in, even though he's a great player who there's no reason to think that he was on steroids.